Hello YouTube, welcome to Wayne's World of Mandolin. If you want some one-on-one Skype sessions, you can hit me with an email. You'll find it in the description of every video I put up. All right, today we're going to jump right in on relative minor, and I'm going to let you know about that. If you haven't watched any of the chord scale content that I have up, a lot of the Eat Your Vegetables things that I put on the channel really deal with an understanding of the chord scale and modes. And for a lot of people, even without conceptually thinking about all of those chords of the chord scale, people hear this term relative minor. And what that means is that you would use the root scale, and I'm going to demonstrate this with E minor. An E minor chord would be the sixth chord of the G chord scale. If I were playing right up the neck, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's an E minor moving straight up the neck. Typically, we might play that chord here, chopping in a bluegrass band. All right, so maybe you've memorized a version. There's a number of different ways that we could play a minor scale. But what would be referred to as the natural minor would be these notes, starting on an E. Those intervals are an E on the second fret of the D string, then an F sharp on the fourth fret of the D string, then a G note on the fifth fret of the D string, that's our minor third, then an open A, second fret A, which is a B note, then the third fret A, which is a C note, then the fifth fret A, which is a D note, then an open E. All right, so if you've learned the major scale for G, I feel like a lot of you probably have. If you just started that scale on the E note, you can hear the minor color of that scale, and that would fit an E minor chord. So that's it in a nutshell as far as finding the relative minor. But obviously, the only way that you're going to be able to apply this to something would be if you knew the root scale very well. When for about 3 years I played with the John Cowan Band, and we would do the tune Lonesome Fiddle Blues in the key of D minor, which goes into what might have been the first riff that was ever really done under the bluegrass umbrella. I feel like it probably was, and it's just a simple thing from D minor to a C chord. Okay, so to play an extended solo over that D minor color, let's figure this out again, and I want to show it to you in a great visual thing that we can look at on the mandolin. This D note, look at the relationship that it has to an F note here. Look at that shape. You would recognize that F, hopefully, as the minor third of the D because of that shape. It could be if we were playing a D minor arpeggio. There's the note. If we had the chord here. But here's a great way to find this that already works more in the direction of a chord. If I were playing a double stop scale for F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There it is. If you're not able to follow along with that double stop scale, check out some of the videos here about double stops on mandolin. But each one of those shapes represents a different chord of the chord scale. It's just that we're looking at number 6. We're just focusing on that today, which is often called the relative minor. So there would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm playing right down the F scale. The intervals of that scale are certainly something that I have to have under my fingers in order to apply that as I would improvise the solo. So without that information of knowing your major scales on the fretboard, the relative minor and an understanding of that isn't going to do you any good if you don't have that information. So we need to know all of our scales in first position and be able to take advantage of open strings when we can. Do those exercises that I talk about in other videos of playing in thirds or fourths or sixths or whatever it is, the place that you may find yourself in those fretboard studies, because you're not going to be able to apply the relative minor unless you know the major scales. That way you can, again, here's some language that can sound intimidating, but we're shifting the tonal center of the scale to the sixth interval of that scale. And just because we do this, it doesn't mean that that's the only thing we're going to play. If there's something else intuitively, like for me, playing over this D minor riff, the first thing I would think of is a closed position blues there, and then here. And I could put those lines together all the way up here and then play. Now I'm going to connect all of that. Those were the intervals of an F double stop scale played down. When I got back to this neighborhood of the fretboard, then I played D blues again. So hopefully what this video can do is kind of open your eyes to the fact that if you don't know your major scales in single notes and double stops and in chord scale versions, then application of the relative minor is probably not going to be in your reach. So hopefully this can create ambition to go work on those major scales and then maybe jump in on this particular element of using a relative minor and not really thinking about all the other modes that are possible with those scales, but zeroing in on this one. If you're able to follow along with all this, try improvising over that riff for Lonesome Fiddle Blues in the key of D minor using the F scale. Or another great example, the tune Blackberry Blossom, when it goes to the E minor section. Back to the rhythm, the whole back half of that section of the E minor, I was playing the G major scale. And I tried to sneak in some intervals. You could hear those intervals walk down. Then I added a blues lick. Because the thought certainly doesn't have to be limited to the relative minor, which I know is going to work. Anything else that I feel, I'm certainly going to play. So hopefully those two examples will give you an opportunity to begin to apply this relative minor concept, provided that you know the G and the F scales. So let me go over those. The G scale, open 2, 4, 5 are the frets on the top two strings. Then on the bottom half of the mandolin, or the A and the E strings, we play open 2, 3, 5. That's a great way to think of the G scale first position. Okay, now the F scale, which is also very easy because it's symmetrical like that. Top half of the mandolin, or the G and the D strings, we play open 2, 3, 5. Those are the fret numbers. Now the bottom half, we play open 1, 3, 5. And of course, if we started on the F note, it's going to fall on our ear just like an F chord. That's going to be the overall sound. Now we're going to go up to that 6th note, which is the D minor. So good luck with this. I hope that it can make you hunger for actually knowing the scales and then jumping on this relative minor thing and being able to apply it to the minor chords that you encounter. Good luck.